Because God can intervene through our enemies, there's great certainty in the face of opposition. Let's just face it, sooner or later, opposition in our lives will come. Whether it be through people or certain scenarios in life, or whether it be through something we have done that we shouldn't have done, or something that has just come our way by way of making us victims, sooner or later we will face opposition in life. And so most of us, it can be quite a fearful thing for us, right? Because no one wants to ever be at the receiving end of someone's abuse or attacks, or at the receiving end of a particular situation or scenario that really makes us feel worthless, or even robs us of our identity and dignity in the process. And so life is full of opposition. And so how do we navigate the opposition and the tension that we end up facing in life? I really think the life of Moses and the faith that Moses shows in his life can really be of help to us. And so we meet Moses first, born to a Hebrew family in Egypt during a time where the Hebrews were already growing as a nation. And so out of national pride, the Egyptians were so fearful of this nation amongst them that is growing, and so they end up enslaving the people of Israel and putting them under slavery, under burden and yoke of oppression. And yet through God's grace, the Israelites keep on growing. And so Pharaoh then resolved to try to kill every male born child of the Hebrews and the Israelites. And so that's where we meet Moses. Moses is born to a particular couple, and as he's born to this particular couple, because they are so much fully aware of what God's purposes and desire for their lives, and even for this child that is born to them, they decide to hide Moses for 3 months. But sooner or later, you cannot keep hiding a child away forever. And so what then ends up happening is they have to actually give Moses away. And so even in the way that they give Moses away, there's just this deep trust that perhaps God could do something still. Perhaps God could intervene in the life of this child in a particular way. And so his mom puts him in a particular basket that she leaves at a river bank. And then what happens? Lo and behold, Pharaoh's daughter. And so the man who's actually seeking to put Moses to death, his daughter comes by the riverside, finds Moses, and being fully aware that Moses is one of the Hebrew child, that her own dad is trying to get killed, she has great compassion, and she actually takes Moses and adopts Moses as her own child. And so then what happens is Moses grows up in Pharaoh's palace as a prince, this prince of Egypt, this Hebrew Israelite child that was condemned to death, grows up under the protection of the very man who was looking to kill him. That's God's providence for you. And so that just shows that God can intervene through our enemies. He can intervene through the things in life that is opposing us. He is powerful and full of grace and power to intervene through the difficulties of our life. Now, that ought to do a few things, or cause a certain response towards us, and that response is certainty and confidence in our lives, because God can intervene through our enemies, intervene through the oppositions and tension we face in life. Therefore, we got to live lives full of certainty, full of great confidence as we navigate that. Now, a life of certainty and confidence will actually play itself out in a few ways. And so here are three for Christians in particular. The first thing is it will play itself out in our disposition. And so what kind of disposition do you have in life? Do you have a disposition in life prone to anxiety, prone to fretting over the things that are happening in your life? Or do you walk life full of confidence that God has got this? Because God can do anything, whether through opposition or times of prosperity or peace, or whether through enemies or friends. God remains sovereign and in control of all things. Therefore, we ought to be people that do not fret as we navigate our lives, but we have a disposition of certainty and confidence, ready to tackle whatever comes our way. The second thing issue insight in us in terms of response is in our actions. And so are we making the most of every moment in our lives, whether in opposition or whether or not, whether in the face of an enemy or in the face of a friend? Make the most of every moment. And so as Moses grows up in Pharaoh's palace, Acts 7 tells us that he grows up in wisdom and he was mighty in both words and deeds. And so Moses is fully aware that he does not belong as an Egyptian in that palace, that he is a Hebrew, and yet in the midst of all this fortune that has come his way through his enemies, he still makes the most of it to actually maximize on the opportunity that he has. And so make the most of every moment in your life, and it does not matter whether it is moments that are empty of threat or it is moments that are full of it. No, we make we maximize on every moment of our lives to really live in a certain way with great certainty and confidence, trusting that God's purposes in our lives will be fulfilled. But then, without trying to get too far ahead of ourselves, we need to think about, well, that was good for Moses, right? He has this Hebrew child that was condemned to death, and yet through the providence of God, his life is indeed spared. But what about all the other Hebrew male children that were killed by the Egyptians? What about those particular children that did not have the good fortune that Moses somehow sort of encounters in his life, and so he's able to make every moment counts as he lives his life? What about them? And so sometimes in our lives, opposition may have its way, and sometimes in life, the tomorrow that we are longing for may not come. But here's the thing: if we are in Christ, if tomorrow does not come, Christ will come. Christ will come. And so that means for us, as we look to navigate our lives, we navigate our lives in hope always that our Christ, who died the death that we should have died, resurrected to life, ascended up on heaven, is one day returning. And in his return, he will make right everything wrong that was done to us. He will create every. He would turn into dancing and mourning, and he would continue to pour out his blessing that we have experienced on the cross. We will see it in its fullness materialize over our lives, and so we can live lives in hope despite of whatever the circumstances or the outcome of our lives happens. And so whether it is in opposition, under the threats of an enemy, or in times of peace under the warm comfort of a friend, we can actually live in both those circumstances fully confident, fully certain about the return of our Lord. And so because Christ comes, we live free and certain and confident that yes, our eternal reward is indeed in Christ, and one day we will fully experience the fullness of what he has promised to us. And so what we learn and see through the life of Moses is that God can indeed intervene through our enemies, through the tensions that we face in life, through the oppositions that may come our way. And so because God can intervene through it all, we are able to live lives of great certainty and confidence. And that certainty and confidence plays itself out, needs to be seen in our disposition towards life. Are we living lives that is not fretting and anxious, but actually confident in what God's purposes and what God may be doing in our lives? It needs to be seen through our actions. Are we making the most of every moment in our lives? And then ultimately, even if tomorrow does not come, it needs to be seen in our hope in Christ, that our Christ will return one day and we will receive from him this great vindicator reward that he has promised to us. And so God can intervene through opposition and your enemies. Therefore, live with great certainty. I hope that this video has encouraged you to live with certainty despite the enemies or opposition and tension. And so if this has been of great encouragement to you, like, share, and subscribe, and see you in the next video.